if you're listening to this. Now, tinnitus could be this. If you've had fears, not moving forward, not feeling like you belong, don't know what your destiny is, you could have an issue with the kidney where it's going to be that inability to move forward also had to do with what you were hearing when you're younger or in your life right now. If you don't feel like you can listen to something anymore, that I cannot hear or ingest what somebody's saying to me, if I've always been around negative energy or negative toxic words, verbal abuse, blame, being blamed for something, somebody telling you you're not good enough, if you have that and you've always had to hear it, sometimes the brain will cut it off. It will put your kidneys in such a frightful position in life. It'll make your gallbladder so frustrated that those areas in your ears lock down because the cells respond. Welcome to the Ancient Health Podcast, where East meets West in the world of medicine. I'm Dr. Chris Motley. Let's bridge the gap between ancient practices and cutting-edge medicine. Let's get started. Hello, friends. Welcome to the podcast. Today, we're going to talk about tinnitus, or as they would call it in Europe, tinnitus. Tinnitus is the ringing in the ears that just doesn't go away. It is a sensation, whether it's going to be a high-pitched or a low-pitched or mid-level pitch. You're always hearing something in the background, or it could be so noticeable and so severe that it could actually be very debilitating. I've had patients lately that have been coming in with this more frequently. I've seen this many, many times in my past, in my clinical experience. And I wanted to talk about today because I've seen so many individuals come in with it, and to offer some insight on what you could possibly do with some acupressure points, also with maybe some herbals and some considerations that you could do to actually help take some pressure off the ears. I know it can be very, very emotional for some patients, and I know many out there that are hearing this who have had it or still have it, how severe it can be and how it can definitely debilitate you. And I want to talk in this podcast about its relationship to the kidney function and also to the gallbladder function. There's a few parts that are going to be very nerd, which I love to get into, but we're going to talk about the relationship to organs, and we're going to talk about why that relationship exists and what you can do to help try to alleviate the tinnitus. Now, I've seen patients who have been able to get out of tinnitus, and I do know this, though, side note, that it could be a very deep neurological issue. It could be rotated upper cervical, C1, C2. It could be damage to the actual nerves that go to the ears, right? The cranial nerves. It could be from a concussion. It could be from imbalance in peptides that help with the healing of the ears and actually get rid of inflammation. So there's a lot of factors, and I know that there are many of them. I just want to come through with an angle that has to do with Eastern medicine and how the physiology could be helped by accentuating and cleaning out the organs. I'm going to tell you why it can occur, and let's see if we can help you reduce the inflammation in the ears or help you with tinnitus or tinnitus. Now, it's the same podcast, guys. I have a different background. I'm going to put some different lights up. I have a really good friend of mine who's actually helped me do this in the background here at the office, and forgive me for the construction there. You can see light sockets and there's some reflections over here, but we're all getting it all taken care of hopefully this week and maybe the next. It's a slow process, but I wanted to get some podcasts out there, and it's early in the day. I'm about to head out to the office. It's usually like that. I have to get up pretty early to do these, and I'm grateful to do them. So I'll stop babbling. But when we're talking about the ears, when we're talking about tinnitus, in the Chinese medicine world, the ears are always associated with the kidneys, okay? And when we look at certain patterns, well, let me show you here off camera for a second. I always get my Chinese medicine doll. The ears are always associated with the kidneys. In fact, the kidneys actually look like the ears. And if you look into the physiology, when you are forming in the womb, when you are an embryo, you have three different cell layers. You have the endoderm, ectoderm, and the mesoderm. And those are three cell layers that form different parts of your body. So I'm trying to go through this simply. There are certain cell types that create certain parts of your kidneys. So the ectoderm will produce the internal portion of your kidneys, like basically the insides of the kidney. The outside of the kidney can be created by the endoderm. So you have different cell types creating different parts. Now, with a kidney, the very internal tubes, like the tubes that go from your kidney down to your bladder, that transports all the fluid down to the bladder to get ready to turn into, and that's going to be exited out of the body. That's ectoderm. Okay? Ectoderm not only is created on the inside portions of your kidneys, those main tubes, but they also help form other tubes, such as your gallbladder bile ducts and the gallbladder itself. So the same cell types that create your kidney internal portions are also the same that actually create the gallbladder and the bile duct. So the gallbladder is connected up into the liver through the bile duct, and there's many branches of that bile duct. So think about 5 to 6, maybe 7 branches of bile ducts that are in your liver. They're all congregating, and they almost like form a tree root that goes down and empties into your gallbladder. So that's one reason, and they call it the wood element. If you looked at the gallbladder and the way it's formed, it looks like a tree. Okay, so this not only occurs in this area, but also parts of the ectoderm are responsible for your upper throat, like right behind your nose as it goes into the throat. That area where you try to clean out the spit out of your throat or the mucus. And that is why Chinese medicine would associate kidneys with the expectoring mucus out of your throat, because they're made of the same cell types. Here's the premise. Infections not only could get into the middle of the gallbladder, right? It could also affect the middle of the kidneys and also affect the throat and any other area that has ectoderm that's used to form certain parts of our body. So same infections, whether it's strep or staph, whether it's a parasite or mold, certain infections love certain cell types because it's easier for the infections to actually burrow into those cells and actually get more nutrients from them. So you can have a patient that will have a different type of infection in different areas of the body only because the infections find it easier to infect those type of cells. And this is why, let's put 2 and 2 together, that if you find a person with a kidney infection, a chronic UTI, or a chronic bladder infection, because those tubes are going down to the bladder, those individuals oftentimes have gallbladder issues and bile duct issues because the infections usually have found their way from the liver, where the liver is trying to clean out all the blood and all the toxins, and they're in the bile ducts. And those infections have found their way down through the digestive system, even into the urinary system, because the body is trying to clean them out. So those infections get down into what? Into the kidneys, infect the kidneys, and try to stay there. So that's why you'll have a certain infection in different areas of the body. It all has to do with the cell types: ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. You can read about it. It's pretty interesting to me. I love embryology, actually. I loved that class. Now, when we're talking about the tinnitus, when the ears get injured, we know that loud banging noises, like I want to give you an example. My mom was a seamstress. She was an alterationist, a tailor, and she used to do the high-pitched sewing machines. And forgive me if you're too close, but it would go that sound consistently. Now, that sound, as it is going through the ears and into the cranial nerves that actually help the brain recognize the sound of what's coming through, it gets used to that sound. So if it's irritating to the ears, the brain has to adjust, right? It has to accommodate, and the brain will actually set up pathways, neurological pathways, to actually accommodate the sound. My mom did it for so many years, and her hearing started to go because her brain got so used to hearing 1 decibel level, 1 or 2 decibel levels, up and down in that frequency range. You guys, I hope this is not too early in the morning for you. It is pretty early for me, but that frequency range is going in a small area of her hearing range, right? Her audio range. And so her brain's getting used to it. So the brain keeps getting used to hearing it. When she stops doing the sewing machine, her brain can still feel that it's listening or hearing that sound. That's what happened to my mom. And so now, like I've worked, my mom does not want to get a hearing aid. I've tried to get her to do hearing aids. I'm trying to still convince her, but she'll say what? And I have to repeat things a few times. I'm almost got her convinced to do it. And I feel for my mom because she works so hard. And she doesn't have huge amounts of tinnitus. I'm thankful for that. But it's just that her ears have really gotten bad over the years because of that. So if you worked with something that was high pitched, like people that do lawn care and do irrigation lawn care services, they'll have sometimes ear issues. That's why they wear muffles around their ears, earplugs. And you hear individuals that should, if they're in high pitch, low pitch, or any type of loud type of experience or work, they need to wear something that protects their ears. First and foremost, I have a lot of musicians here in Nashville area, and they all have tinnitus. Most of them do. especially the drummers. And they need to do ear protection because it can really not only irritate the brain, but it can damage the nerve over time and cause inflammation in the nerve. So my mom's had it, but one thing I did notice this, not only with her, but the other patients they all have had kidney issues. Now, I'm not saying full-blown kidney infections or UTIs or bladder infections, but there is a high correlation with these patients that they've had a kidney problem or kidney fatigue or disease and ear issues. Now, here's a list, though, that you need to look out for, a small symptomatology list. If the kidneys are involved, you could actually have, especially problems with the ears and hearing. You could have irritation in the ears, like inflammation within the ears, excessive earwax. You can also have really bad congestion with mucus that can't ever get cleared out of the throat. Remember, it's related to those ectoderm layers. So you have a congestion. You could also have sore, tight hip flexors. The kidneys sit right in your low back, right by the vertebra of lumbar 1. And the muscles of your hip flexors, known as the psoas and the iliacus muscles, insert into your lumbar spine between L1 to L2, L3, the first 2 to 3 lumbar vertebra, maybe even down to L4, depending on the person. So the nerve that's going to the kidneys and basically the meridians, because in the meridian system, it's not the same as the nerve system. The kidney meridian starts at the very bottom of the ball of the foot, and it goes up the inside of the leg and the inside of the knee, up through the inside of the quad, up through the front of the body as it passes through the pelvis, and it passes right in front of that kidney area. And it goes all the way up to your sternum, through your sternum, up to your collarbone. Okay? So when this occurs, you could have tight hip flexors because that meridian and the nerves that go from the kidneys down to your hip flexors are basically weakened, and it tightens up the hip flexors. So a person will have SI joints that are always tight. They can't stretch their hip flexors. No matter what they do, they stay tight. They can never be flexible. Another thing is internal knee pain. Inside of the knees, right here, inside where that kidney meridian travels. Also, the ball of the foot. The kidney meridian goes right through the ball of the foot, up through the arch. So if you have chronically sore balls of the feet, or you have arches of your feet that continuously feel sore and tired and tender, that could be kidney. I've also found people with plantar fasciitis, heel spurs, and even cracked heels on the back of the heels. And that's also related to the bladder. The bladder could actually have the infection being pulled down from the kidneys. So it doesn't mean that if you have kidney infections that you're eventually going to have tinnitus. Not at all. It just means that the ears have been injured in a way that's related to that kidney congestion. Not everybody expresses it the same. Another thing that you want to look for is people that have chronic fears. And chronic fear does this. Your kidneys have the adrenal glands sitting right on top of them. So your adrenal glands are helping produce cortisol and adrenaline. It's helping you create noradrenaline. You'll have these catecholamines, these small hormones, and you have, the body has such an amazing way of using different organs to create different types of hormones and neurotransmitters. But these are your stress hormones, and they're produced by the adrenals that sit right on top of your kidneys. And in fact, Chinese medicine, they almost treat the kidney and the adrenal as one unit. If you're consistently in fear, not fear like I'm afraid of everything, but fear of not getting ahead in life, fear of not moving forward, fear of being stuck in a position in life, if you feel that you're afraid because you don't belong, that's a big one. If you feel like you don't belong, that you feel like you're not necessarily abandoned, but if you feel like a fish out of water, if you feel that I can't ever find my group, or I can't find the path in life I need, and there's fear involved with that, some anxiousness, that will make the adrenals work harder. I hope that makes sense. It makes the adrenals work harder. The adrenals will pull energy from the kidneys. So the kidneys are affected by the adrenals and back and forth. The reason that this is so important is because the adrenals, through that meridian, go through the middle of your foot, up through the foot, right? That goes on the inside of the leg. Those are battery packs. When you put your feet into the bare earth, which is very important by grounding, or into the water or on the rocks, then the Meridian pulls a lot of the good negative ions out of the earth and transfers them up to the kidneys. So the kidneys actually act like a battery pack, and that's why the adrenals love it, because the kidneys help with higher ATP production, helps with energy production within the body. So if you're always in a constant fear, like maybe you're in a fearful situation when you're a kid, maybe you're in a trauma-based house, maybe you're in a situation with work where you always feel like I am always fearful that something bad is about to happen. Then what would occur is it drains the adrenals and the kidneys. The inside of the kidneys don't work as well. The kidneys get weak. Then they start accumulating toxins, the stuff that you should be pulling out of your blood, and should put them into your urine to get down to the bladder to pee them out. That's the routine. And it all can come from your emotional fears or your mental stress. So you're seeing that there's different layers. And maybe you have all of these at once. But when you start to see the physical issues that could occur, then you start to see that not only is it going to be like it could be not only a concussion, it could also be a bad kidney infection, or it could be a fear situation. But they all can correlate. So I don't want this to be over confusing, but one of the goals is that you want to make sure you nourish your kidneys. And on a side note, I want you not to forget the gallbladder. So whenever you have a kidney issue, remember I told you that it shares the same type of cells that occur with the gallbladder. And so when we have the same cell types occurring, if you weaken the kidneys by having constant fear, it can make fatigue within the gallbladder and the bile ducts that carry bile from the liver into the gallbladder, and vice versa. So you could have a tired gallbladder, tired kidney. And what's the emotions of the gallbladder? It's frustration and resentment. It is having too many things to do at one time. And so you have too many things happening at one time. You can be well frustrated. That could create fear. So the emotions can go back and forth, fear to resentment and frustration, and vice versa. So you don't want to forget the gallbladder. And one thing I want to show you here as well, I know this is a big teaching podcast, but if you have any pain around the corner of your eyes, the meridian goes to the TMJ of the gallbladder. Okay, so I'm not switching too much. I'm trying to show that there is a relationship. The gallbladder has a point on the corner of the eye. It goes to the TMJ, right by the tragus of the ear. It wraps around the ear here on my doll. It wraps around the ear, goes to almost the base of that knobby bone right here, that mastoid right behind your ear. It wraps back up around the ear forward like almost a reverse ram horn, and comes back to the forehead, like the top corner area of the forehead. And then it wraps back down the back of the head, and it goes down through the shoulder, through the side of the body, down to the foot. That's the gallbladder channel. The main point here, though, is it wraps around the ear. And some of the acupressure points that you want to work on are the gallbladder points that are around the ear. Okay, so we want to make sure that you can massage these gallbladder points around the ear. Now, when you look at the gallbladder points like the 10, the gallbladder 9, gallbladder 8, gallbladder 7, if you study those, one thing I see a lot of is this feeling of low energy. Like you're doing everything right, but your body just doesn't feel as strong or resilient as it used to be. And many times, that's not just about hormones or stress. It can come down to how your cells are actually producing energy. Inside your cells are mitochondria, these little energy factories that power everything. Your movement, your focus, even how you recover day to day. That's why I've been using MitoCure from Timeline. It helps support your mitochondria by clearing out the old damaged ones so your cells can function more efficiently. For me, I noticed better energy and just feeling stronger in my body overall. Timeline's clinically proven formula is now available at a new lower price. MitoPure now starts at $79 when you go to timeline.com/Dr. Motley. Even a gallbladder 13, 14, those areas around the ears, you need to press around the ears to see if they're tender. One of the main ones I like to do is go right at the top tip of the ear and get a 2-finger width above your ear. And I want you to press right in that area right there. Now, that's the distance from the top of the ear. Now, you can go forward towards your temple, or you can make a nice curve around the ear, all the way down to the tip of that hard, knobby bone right behind your earlobe. And that's one of the main areas of the gallbladder channel. Now, you can literally, from that point, the 2-finger width up, you can go an extra 2 to 3 finger widths up on the head. I'm sitting here just butchering this because I'm moving my head the wrong way. But even here where you have the area where your brow, your hairline meets the side of your hair brow. And if you go back, if you can see right here, just go about 3-finger width up from that original position. That's the second line of the gallbladder channel. And if you look on a map, like on, the internet, if you look at gallbladder 17 and gallbladder 18, those are areas that can be very tender too. So if you're watching this on camera, you can go, remember, 2-finger width up from the top of the ear, circle the ear, maybe work your way over to the temple. You could actually press into your TMJ. You can go about 3-finger width up from that original position above the ear and check that area up there as well. And those are gallbladder points. And if those points are tender, you want to rub and massage those 3 to 4 times a day if you have tinnitus. And if you're at work and you're frustrated and resentful, seriously, if you're at home and you feel that way, both sides, 30 to 40 seconds, you massage those a few times a day, the gallbladder will start to be nourished and it'll start flushing. The big key is it's going to take inflammation out from around the ears. I could go a little bit more entailed and say that there are what we call triple warmer meridians, which has to do with the adrenals and the thyroid that wrap around the ear as well, even the small intestine. But for right now, these are my major ones. Check the gallbladder meridian. So the second thing I would say is the kidney meridian itself. Some of the best ways to help with tinnitus is to massage the area right where your collarbone, if you guys are sitting there, just your collarbone, right where the inside area, the inside end of the clavicle. You put your finger on the inside end, okay? And you just rub where that clavicle, your collarbone, meets your sternum. You got to move it down a little bit, and that area is called kidney 27. Rub around this area here. If that isn't tender, you work your way down the inside of the sternum, where the ribs meet the sternum, and you're going to find some tender spots. That will also show you some kidney dysfunction. Those are great areas to use acupressure. And I always like to go to the inside of the ankle as well, right behind the big knobby bone of the inside of the ankle, and between the inside knobby bone of the ankle, if you can see here, right there, as it diagonally goes to the heel, there's a few little points right there in that area. Reach in there and massage those points. And if you want to, you could look up with the kidney 6, 7, 8 points around the ankle area. And if you start to massage those points, you're going to notice that they're tender. And that is kidney as well. So there's a lot of points that you can massage and do acupressure every day, 3 to 4 times a day. I usually do 30 to 45 seconds a piece. You can do on both sides. This is to encourage energy and strength to get up to your kidneys. It also is going to help you with the areas around the ears to help with the strength of the gallbladder. All this is to bring more energy and more calming and more anti-inflammatory reactions within the ear area and the ear canal. That's why a lot of people have a lot of ear congestion. That's why some people in the same family, one will have a whole lot of earwax, inflammation in the ears, fluid behind the eardrum. You could have serous fluid in there, and that is because usually the person has a kidney infection that they're not addressing. I have a patient right now that has fluid behind the ears. The doctors don't know what to do. They've given her some different types of antibiotics. They're not working. What I have found is she has a really weak right kidney. Her left side's a little weak, but her right side's pretty heavily involved. And I'm not trying to go all over the place, but one thing you have to remember is that the kidneys are on both sides. And if your right side kidney area, like the flank area, if you're looking at this doll with me, if you reach around your back, the flanks where it's like right where your ribs end and that's where your lumbar spine begins. If you reach back there, usually people do that. They'll reach around and stretch their back backwards. Right where your thumbs meet, where you put your thumbs up into your spine, right underneath your ribs, that's where your kidneys are at. You got to find out which side is tender. And if both sides are tender, they're both tender. It just means that the kidneys have infections in both sides. But you can be specific on which side is more tender. That area you can rub out as well. But you got to pay attention. If your right side's more tender than the left, it may mean that there's more of a female relationship that's caused fear or some type of stiffness in life, not moving forward with female in your life. If it's left side, it's more male, maybe the father. So right side could be mother, or it could be, a female friend. It could be a female daughter or a female child. So you have to look at the sides because those individuals could be causing the fear in life. Same with the gallbladder meridian. If you're rubbing it on the head on both sides, one side's more inflamed than the other. Right side's more the females in your life. Left side's more the males. So you can use these points to massage. And I know that was a lot, guys, and maybe you have to go back and listen to this podcast again. But just in a nutshell, take your hands, massage around your ears. That's for your gallbladder. Massage around your collarbone, around the sternum and down the sternum, on the sides of the sternum. Massage the inside of your ankles and massage your back right here. If you guys can see, right here in the flanks, right where your lumbar one is. And it's that little nook where the ribs go up and meet the first or the last T12L1 area in the spine, right around here on both sides. The reason I'm so adamant about this is because certain days you're going to have more tenderness than others. But most people, they'll stop having some tenderness and they stop rubbing the points. And that's okay. You don't want to over stimulate the area. But you want to keep checking the area as you have tinnitus. Because if you start flushing the kidneys and the gallbladder, that's the goal. There could be sludge in there. Sludge in the gallbladder and kidneys will congest the energy around the ears. And when I was telling you about that patient that had the fluid behind the ears, the infections, remember, are in the ear, on the inside of the ear. The inside of the ear has the same type of cells as the kidneys. It has the same types of cell as the inside of the gallbladder and gallbladder bile ducts. So you have the ectoderm that makes up certain portions of the ears, the ectoderm. So the infections in the kidneys or gallbladder can make their way into the ear. And that's why those infections stay there. Because they are using resonant energy, resonant frequency, a resonant quorum communication from your ears down to your kidneys, from your ears over your gallbladder. So I know it's physical and chemical, but energetically, these infections are communicating with each other. If there's vibrance within the kidneys, there's going to be vibrance up in the ears of the infection. So you want to break the quorum, the communication. But I want you guys to remember this, if you're listening to this. Now, tinnitus could be this. If you've had fears, not moving forward, not feeling like you belong, don't know what your destiny is, you could have an issue with the kidney where it's going to be that inability to move forward also had to do with what you were hearing when you're younger or in your life right now. If you don't feel like you can listen to something anymore, that I cannot hear or ingest what somebody's saying to me, if I've always been around negative energy or negative toxic words, verbal abuse, blame, being blamed for something, somebody telling you you're not good enough. If you have that and you've always had to hear it, sometimes the brain will cut it off. It will put your kidneys in such a frightful position in life. It'll make your gallbladder so frustrated that those areas in your ears lock down because the cells respond. And so you have to remember, did you get to a point in your life where I could not hear this anymore? I cannot stand listening to this. That's huge. And if you're still in the same situation, you need to monitor that, because you need to have a talk with a person where you feel like you're being abused, or if you feel like there's too much verbal communication that's not beneficial for you, or if you're in a situation at work, you have to figure out if you can stay around that or not. Will helping the kidneys and the gallbladder help you with handling it? It can, but it's there to help you recognize. Remember, it's recognition about what you can hear, and it's beneficial for your health. What can I intake So you want to rub the points and massage those points. I'm telling you, this will help you. It'll actually help your emotions. You have to see if you need to do some EMDR, eye movement therapy, lens neurofeedback that help you with those emotions about the situation where you've been feeling like you can't hear something anymore. Or if you're at a job where it's loud, you may have to stop that or wear ear protection. There's a lot of things, but I'm just saying, I want you to look at this in all angles. With this, I don't just say that herbs fix everything. Not at all. I love herbs. I love homeopathy. There's a really good product by Bio. I want you guys to try it out or look into it. And we'll put a link here on the bottom of the show notes. It's by Bio, DESBIO. I love this company. I just did a conference with them out in Phoenix. But they have one called Ear Ring, EARRING. It's very good. You can do 15 times a day of ear ring for tinnitus. It doesn't say it cures it. It just says helps the ears. And those combinations in there definitely help with the kidneys, with gallbladder, and with the emotional aspects. It's all in one. Ear ring. Another homeopathic, which I know, classically trained homeopathy, they do not like to do combination homeopathy. They like to do single ingredient, which I respect that, and I do combine mine, so I don't want anybody to be upset with me, but this is just my suggestion. And check with your primary care if you have any questions about this, okay, guys? But if you put the ear ring, not an ear ring, but the ear ring homeopathy, and you take it underneath the tongue, you can also add in to a little cup of water, and, with the ear ring homeopathy, I like to use kidney bladder opener, and it's a kidney bladder meridian opener. Just make it simple. I like to use those two. I like to do 10 to 15 drops of each one, and I like to do it 2 times a day. Some people go up to 3. And it's going to start flushing your kidneys. Now, if you start to urinate too much, or you feel like your kidneys are releasing maybe stones or sludge, you need to back off and just do like 5 drops of each twice a day. Just a side note. Use those two. or I suggest that you look into it and use those two. And do that consistently for almost 2 to 3 months. Don't waver. See if it starts to help. Getting out of the situations or the job, or trying to find a way that you don't hurt your ears anymore. And I like Uva Ursi. Uva Ursi is by Supreme Nutrition Products. I love Uva Ursi. It is a berry, and they usually use a stem as well, but they use the leaves mostly. But there's a berry, and there's also certain parts of this plant, but it's been known to help with the gallbladder and the kidneys. It's a very good kidney flush herbal. I love using it. I do it as a maintenance for my kidney patients. They take 1 to 2 capsules. Here on the suggestion is 1 to 2 capsules 2 times a day. That's for a 150-pound person. You take your weight and relate it to 150 pounds. So 1 to 2 capsules 2 times a day is for a 150-pound person. If you weigh less than that, then reduce accordingly or add into it if you're a larger person or heavier. But I love Uva Ursi. I also recommend Bodyguard Supreme. Bodyguard Supreme is called the Stone Breaker. That will help clean out sludge, stones, any type of congestion out of your kidneys, gallbladder, and even your blood vessels. I really love it. I'm just giving you these. I know there's a lot. You don't take every single one of these, but these two I really love, Uva Ursi and Bodyguard, for the kidneys and even the gallbladder. They really, really help in so many ways. These two are my main picks for this podcast, but the Bodyguard, you can do 1 capsule 3 times a day. I always really suggest that you start slow with herbs. Even if it's 1 capsule a day and work your way up to the full dosage. Start slow. Work your way up. Start with 1 capsule a day. And don't give up. Even if it takes 2 to 3 months of you taking something consistently, see if that starts to help with the tinnitus or the tinnitus. And I love Bodyguard and I love Uva Ursi. A couple things that you could do just to help with kidney nourishment, like D-mannose or cranberry. You can do that. There's capsules out there and even powders you can take and drink them. Or drinking no sugar cranberry has really been able to help. And you definitely get checked out by EENT. If you have fluid trapped behind the ears and it's not going away, you have to figure out a way to get that fluid out of there. I'm not saying you never do an antibiotic. I'm not a very big fan of them at all times. But there could be a point where you have to figure out a way to get that fluid drained. So I'm not against all medical Western intervention. I just want you guys to have clear hearing. And definitely if there's neurological damage where the crystalline formations in your ears causing any type of vertigo, or it's causing some ringing in the ears, if you get those crystals, remember, you can go to an EENT and ask if they need to do any type of vertigo or benign positional work on the crystals in the ears, because even if you don't have a lot of positional vertigo issues, it could still be related to the tinnitus. So get the crystals checked in your ear by your EENT, ear, eyes, nose, and throat doctor. Try these 2 herbs and try that homeopathy mixture, ear ring or the kidney bladder Meridian opener. And if these do make some improvement, we're glad that could. I always try to make sure that I just keep an eye on the kidneys. If on your blood work you have globulin or albumin level discrepancy, if you keep having imbalances in those areas or any kidney enzymes or even liver enzymes like ALT or AST, and you have tinnitus, there's a definite connection there. And I don't want this podcast to be vague. There's so many things, but I want you to remember, do the simple things. Don't do complicated. That's why I want you to do simple things before you have to do something, very serious or have a heavier intervention to see if it can work. So remember, acupressure around the ears, around the points I suggested, possibly the Uva Ursi, Bodyguard Supreme. You can also, remember, do the homeopathy. Those are my first big things that I tell patients to do. And once you start this and do it for 2 to 3 months, let's see if it actually helps it. If this doesn't really make a dent in it, you may have to do heavier intervention by checking and see which infections are not clearing. So what I normally do is I have a patient do something like a lab from Vibrant Wellness has a good lab, but I also try to find out if there's really specific kidney infections. I like MicroGen DX, MicroGen DX. And MicroGen DX is really good because it has a urokey, UROKEY. And urokey really helps with cleaning out or testing for any infections that's staying inside the kidneys. They also have others that use ways to find out infections there in the fecal matter, which can give you an indication what's going on in the liver. You can get a blood test. A blood test would be great. A blood test could tell you what's roaming around the blood, and the blood goes to the liver and the kidney. So that's another option. So you can get a blood test or you can get a urokey. Some people do it very simple and do an oats test. So these are different ones. Urokey or a blood panel from MicroGen DX and find those specific hidden infections, or do an oats test, OATS. by Mosaic Labs. You can urinate. It'll tell you if you have yeast, mold, or bacteria, or signs of any type of SIBO in your urinary system, but also in the digestive, because it kind of shows if it's in your urine, it's probably throughout the whole digestive system as well. So an oats test by Mosaic Labs is good. But all I want you to do is you can find one of those tests and see if they're hidden. And if you can, go to your primary care and say, is there any way we can help this out, cleaning it out? Because there could be a definite connection to the ears. That's a lot to take in, guys, in about 35 minutes. But I want you guys to try it out. I hope this was helpful. If you have anybody that had any type of tinnitus, any type of ear issues, if you've had anybody that had any type of inflammation in the kidneys and the gallbladder, this all could help. But I want your hearing to improve. I want you to emotionally get healthier and send this their way. If you like this, please like and subscribe. Hit the bell that you're reminded every time something like this comes back up on the feed. So from all of us here at the Ancient Health Podcast, I'm Dr. Chris Motley. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a blessed day. Take it easy. Before we wrap up, please remember that the information shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is formed through this podcast, and the use of information here or materials linked from this podcast is at your own risk. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health regimen, and do not disregard or delay seeking medical advice for any condition you may have. Our content may include sponsorship and affiliate links, to which we earn a small commission on sales made through those links. Thank you for joining us today on the Ancient Health Podcast. We hope you've gained valuable insights into the harmony between Eastern and Western medicine. If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Remember, true health is about balance, mind, body, and spirit. So stay tuned for more episodes where we continue to explore how ancient wisdom and modern science can work together to help you thrive. Here's to your health, balance, and well-being. I'm Dr. Chris Motley, and I look forward to our next episode together.